Before I started cycling, I was fat, ugly, and sad. Thankfully now, I'm only ugly. But seriously though, I'm going to talk about that last one in this video. So, as is customary these days, slight trigger warning. If you don't like discussions around mental health, that sort of thing, then feel free to skip this one. However, if it's something that's bothered you in the past or currently, especially in the winter months, then stick around. We're gonna beat it this year. If you're already subscribed, as always, thanks for coming back. And if you're new, I'm Andy, an ultra cyclist from the south of the UK. And I make videos about training, kit and adventures. Subscribe for more videos like this, although admittedly, this one's a little bit different. But you're joining me on a particularly dreary day. Pretty typical winter day in Britain. And today, it's actually the day the clocks are about to change for us here. Just heading into the shorter days. Actually tonight, the clocks go back. So for a Monday evening when I leave work, it'll be pitch black. If you're anything like me, then you go to work. It's cold, dark, dreary. You finish work, it's exactly the same. All those daylight hours, gone. There's only 7 or 8 of them on the shorter days of the year. Of course, I'm talking from the perspective of someone who lives in the south of England. So depending on where you live, the length of day through the winter months will vary drastically. But this time of year, right now, it really tends to kick in for a lot of people. For me personally, it's something that I've struggled with for a long time, and I wondered whether I should talk about it. Is it too dreary? But if you've watched for a while now, then you know that I don't shy away from the difficult subjects. Might be kind of a niche conversation, but quite a few people watch these videos now, and I'm sure quite a few of you get this yourselves in varying degrees. So I want to try to help people to get through the winter months and enjoy cycling and use your bike as a vehicle to get over this so-called winter depression, because I know it's no fun. That said, I still need to do my workout, so let's go. Almost fell off my bike at a busy junction, which is hilarious for the drivers. If these conditions aren't the ideal metaphor for what I'm talking about, I don't know what is. At this point, I'm thinking of cutting the ride a little bit shorter just to deal with all the cleaning. So we are talking about winter depression, seasonal depression, my least favorite name, seasonal affective disorder. And it really worked to make the acronym fit. Like they were thinking, these people are all pretty sad. So, seasonal, affective. But that said, it doesn't change the fact that it's very real and it affects a lot of people, and probably quite a few of you. Essentially, when the days get shorter, there's much less sun, it's much cloudier, grayer. It's really at its worst at the height of winter. The reason is, we need vitamin D to function. We need certain levels of vitamin D. There are several ways to get vitamin D, but the most effective is to be outside in the sun, absorbing it through your skin. So, of course, shorter days, getting much less of that. Some people are less affected than others, some people don't feel it at all. But this can manifest itself in lots of ways, lots of different symptoms. I've suffered with it for years now, and last year was particularly bad. I can't always say 100% why mine in particular is much worse some years than others. Usually, if I get more sun, it's much, much better. Last year, that didn't seem to happen. The reason I thought it was relevant here, because we're all outdoor type people. So if you suffer with this anyway, and you're a cyclist or an endurance cyclist, and you're used to being out all day in the summer, the winter months can hit pretty hard. Go from having some pretty amazing adventures, being out literally all of the daylight hours. I'll bivvy and wake up before sunrise, be out during sunrise all the way through the day until well into the night sometimes. That's what I really love. And you come into winter, and where I live, got less than 8 hours of sun during the winter. And for the most part, that time spent indoors. Now, when it comes to mental health in general, I usually don't like the I'm a little bit this, I'm a little bit that. I think in some cases it can be a little bit offensive. Whenever I hear people say, we're all a bit OCD, we're all a bit ADHD, I think people with OCD and ADHD will be a bit offended. So usually I don't like that. But in the case of seasonal affective disorder, I do think it comes in varying degrees. And I say that because I've had it in varying degrees for years now. Some years, very, very good with it. Other years, it's basically crippling. I'm not making this for you to get your tiny violins out for me, but I do think mine's made much worse because of the hobby I have and the effect winter has on the hobby. So if you're watching this and this does affect you too, then let me know. I'm really keen to see how many of us endurance cyclists actually do suffer with this. So, how can it affect you? And is it affecting you? Has it affected you in the past? I'll flash up some of the symptoms and the ways that it affects people on the screen, because I know how it affects me, but actually there are quite a few symptoms. So, I'll put those up now. But for me personally, it's a few different things that vary in their acuteness. And I'll try to be frank here as well. I don't know what it is about talking to this little camera. Normally, quite guarded, don't share a huge amount, but for some reason I find this a bit easier to open up to thousands of random people. But when it comes from a place of wanting to help, so hopefully it's not too depressing. I do have a history of what I'd call plain old depression. And I say plain old depression because it's kind of how it is. If you go to a doctor and you're worried that might be affecting you, then there's lots of tests that they go through, and eventually you find out, yep, you're depressed. And until you work out what's actually causing it, it can afflict you for a long time. Given some SSRI tablets or whatever, off you go, figure it out. For me, that took about 7 or 8 years. Figured out what the problem was that was making me depressed. As soon as I found that out, off the medication, felt great. That's just a full disclosure point, really. I have that history. But now, about 13 years on, I'm just left with winter depression. So I know what depression feels like. That's what it feels like. That's what I get in the winter. I'm just miserable. But not just miserable like a lot of people understand it. It's full on depression. And it only comes in the winter. I find it really hard to get up in the mornings, to get out of bed, to be motivated, to start my day. Once I'm out of bed, no real motivation, no real lust for life. The complete opposite of what I am in the summer. I have a partner, a long-suffering partner. She puts up with it very well, but I know I'm not a very nice person to be around when it gets really bad. So we're flashing up those symptoms. If you're reading that, if you're watching this and you think it's affecting you, then hopefully this will help in some way. But seriously, YouTube is not a place to come and treat that kind of thing. You do need to go and get some help from a doctor or someone who really knows what they're doing. That said, for a lot of people watching this, if you've been going through this every winter for a while now like I have, then it's more a case of managing it, finding ways to minimize the effect it can have, and enjoy the winter months as much as possible. Here we are, end of October, just about to start November. We've got months of this coming ahead of us. Can still be a great time of year to ride, despite these conditions. Right now, I could not be any wetter, my shoes are waterlogged. I'm gonna head home and start cleaning this stuff up. But even so, it can be enjoyable riding through the winter months. So I'm gonna go through some of the things that have helped me in the past, I'll be implementing this year, some things I could be better at, some things I'm gonna try to do this year. And if you're watching this and you've got ideas, ways to circumvent some of those symptoms, then comment below and let's try to help each other out. I'm sure you'd agree, that's the negatives pretty well covered. There's a lot we can do to improve the situation. So what are we going to do about it? First and foremost, I'm talking about this in relation to cycling. So there's an obvious first answer. We love riding our bikes. Obviously, finding ways to continue to do that through these winter months, I think will have the most impact on mental resilience through the winter months. Right now, I'm soaked to the bone, freezing cold, haven't really helped myself to be honest. Still wearing shorts, no mud guards, but all that kind of stuff makes it so much more comfortable to stay out on the bike. Stopping riding, I think, has the biggest impact on mental health. If you can just get some mud guards, that for me was the biggest game changer in riding through winter. So much more comfortable when you're not getting sprayed with rubbish and water all up your back. So much warmer. Bring in a raincoat. I do have one. Whatever you can do to continue riding, I think will have the biggest impact, because even on a day like today, I'm still getting far more vitamin D and sun than I would be at home. And I think just during the week, getting out during the day, on your lunch break, it's easy to sit at your desk. A lot of people do. Just going out for a little walk at lunch is the only opportunity you'll get during the week for most people to get a bit of daylight and a bit of sunshine. Unless you work out in it, but I think a lot of people stuck in offices like I am, that'll really help. Whatever you can do to improve your access to sunshine and vitamin D, it's going to make a big difference to mood. Having challenges and goals through the winter months, I think makes a massive difference too. Coming out and riding in this is not the most fun, but when you're doing it as part of a training plan for something that's important to you, you're far more likely to go out and do it. Having a goal and a target to hit in those winter months, it's going to make it far more likely to push on and create some drive and motivation to continue pushing on in the winter months. Personally, I've got a couple of ideas and challenges to set myself coming up in the winter months, which I won't talk about yet, but a couple of ways to make sure I'm staying focused and keeping up with my training. And I think just in general as humans, we need to have a challenge and a goal to work towards, to stay driven and motivated. I think that'd have quite a drastic effect on most people, on how they feel in terms of motivation and drive in those winter months. One other idea I haven't tried much myself, but I plan to this year, is going away for some winter sun. And you might be thinking, good one, I can't really afford to go on several holidays through the winter. But if you plan 4 or 6 weeks ahead, flights from the UK to Mallorca or similar are really cheap. It's cheaper to rent a bike than to take your own. And on top of that, I'd even consider bivvying, treat it like a mini adventure, make it even cheaper. One particularly difficult aspect, waking up and getting your day started when it's pitch black outside. It's so hard. It's especially hard if you're trying to get up to get out and train. It's a bit like those pre-sunrise wake-ups on ultras, wrapped up in your bivvy. You do not want to be getting out of that thing, but you have to. My partner invested in one of those Lumi style clocks, and you can get knockoff ones that are pretty cheap. Basically simulate a sunrise in your bedroom, and they work really, really well if you struggle with that. So I'd recommend looking on Amazon or eBay and get a knockoff. That really did the trick for me. There are some other things to try. I tried vitamin D tablets. They were quite good actually, but it could have been placebo, and if the placebo works, placebo works. So, but that is worth a go. Do your own research on that, because some say it doesn't work. I thought they were alright. So it's not exactly an exhaustive list of things that will help, but it's things that have helped me a bit over the years. And I'm hoping there's some more people watching that will chip in the comments and give some other ideas of things they think might help people. I'd be interested for myself at least. I think that's enough waffle. I'm not far from home and I'm running late, so I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to go home, clean up this mess, and try and get warm. Oh, and one last thing. I've got some news. I thought I'd leave it till now because usually the people that are really invested in the channel watch to the end. So in about 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks, this channel will be 1 year old, and there's some changes coming. I always said I'd do this for a year, regardless of results, and just see what happens. And I think it's working, so I got plans to make a few changes. Not really talk about all of it. Yeah, I'll make a video in a couple of weeks' time. But one thing that's definitely coming is a name change of the channel. So keep in mind, in the next few weeks, if you see me disappear from the list of subscribers, I'm still in there. And I'll make a video to explain what it's going to be, why, and a few other changes as well. So watch this space. Pretty much at the end of a 4 or 5 week off season now. So this is the last easy ride for a little while. I had in the back of my mind that when the clocks change, I'm going to winterize my bike and start my training plan. So I'm going to winterize this bike, and next weekend go on an adventure. It's raining again. As always, thank you all for watching. If you watched until now, look after yourselves. I'll see you all on the next one.